as you know, a sanitation worker or a man who claims to be a sanitation worker had alleged that he had been burying bodies. And he used the word hundreds of bodies, which is why the media has been reporting quite a bit. The Karnataka government, after a lot of pressure, formed a special investigation team to be headed by IPS officer Pranam Mohanty. There's a small lull now because the SIT has not yet gone to Dharmasthala, but we are hearing that by the beginning of next week, the SIT will be at Dharmasthala. They will have to do exhumation. They'll also have to question this witness again. But meanwhile, Virendra Hegde, Dharmadhikari of the Dharmasthala temple, his brother Harshendra Kumar, has gone to a court in Bengaluru and got an injunction order. This against 8,842 links. They wanted to be de-indexed or removed. People, including us, will be fighting against those injunction orders. But I just want to understand from Pooja and from Anisha, Sheth, our Karnataka bureau chief who joins us, as to what is happening. Pooja, where does it stand now? The SIT has been formed and they will go to Dharmasthala soon. That's it?
Yeah, there was a little bit of controversy within the SIT. There were officers who didn't want to be part of it. So that is in process right now. But yes, they will go to Dharmasthala. And as we had mentioned in Power Trip, there was some reluctance on part of the local police to start the exhumation process. So now that the SIT has taken over, the hope is they'll start the process. There is a very detailed 164 statement that has already been recorded where the witness went in front of the magistrate. It was for 1.5 hours where there were no lawyers present in the room. So that detailed statement is very much there. But if the SIT feels they need more information from him, they can question him one more time. But I don't see what new reasons they can come up with to delay the exhumation process now.
Anisha, see, I know that a lot of international media, even a lot of Delhi media has descended at Dharmasthala. And what people keep asking, like I see Malayalam, Telugu, Tamil, all of them covering this now. And they're all like, what is this temple town where, this is happening? Now, we have to separate a lot of things here. One is that what the sanitation worker has said is in the realm of allegations now. It has to be proven after there's exhumation, etc., whether really he did bury people, right? But Dharmasthala has always been in the news, at least for the past 10 years. That is primarily because of unidentified bodies discovered at this place and also of unnatural deaths, right? So, for those who are not from Karnataka and who have perhaps only heard of Dharmasthala now in this context, because, the world that we live in, so many YouTube channels, everybody now knows about the story. But we have been covering these conspiracy theories or these questions. I don't think we should call them just conspiracy theories, but these are questions.
Unusual developments.
Yeah, unusual developments for many years now. Just explain, why have people in and around Dharmasthala always been suspect of what is happening there?
It's a famous temple dedicated to a deity called Manjunatha, and I don't think there's anybody in Karnataka who doesn't know about it. Okay, even if they've not visited the temple, you'd be hard put to find anyone who doesn't know the temple. And this also applies to neighboring Kerala. A lot of people from Kerala also visit Dharmasthala. So it is very popular. There is a lot of reverence for that deity and people have, strong faith associated with it. But say, at least as far as I remember, there are two major high-profile murders that happened in, if you can call it murder or unexplained deaths. There was a school teacher named Vedavalli who was burnt in 1979. And that became a huge, unanswered question because how she died, why she died, was never explained. So her husband, who died a few years ago, he would keep talking about it at many of these protests and so on. A decade later, almost a decade later, there was a woman called Padmalata, a young woman. I mean, she was, I think, in the first PO or something when she disappeared in December 1986. For 3 months, 56 days, nobody knew where she was. When her body was finally found, it was found, I think, in a semi-nude condition and with her hands and feet tied. So there was no explanation for where she was and so on. And that was the first time there were massive protests, over her murder. Like this is decades before Saujanya's death happened. So those are two murders. But in at least since the early 2000s, every day, not every day, but very often the Kannada newspaper Udayavani would carry these small stories about bodies being found in Dharmasthala. Most of the time in the Netravati river, near the bathing ghat in the Netravati river, or the dam close to the river, and so on. And there were also many bodies found in and around the temple itself. Okay, and many of them remain unidentified. Now, when you see like dozens of such bodies being found under unexplained circumstances, people are going to talk about it. Dharmasthala is a tiny village. And for people to keep reading this in the newspaper every day, that, there's so many bodies being found and so on, people are going to ask questions, and they're going to want to, they're going to want to demand answers from the police, from the government, as to why this is happening. So,
but then, Anisha, just to interrupt you here, one of the things that Dharmasthala people and even the panchayat, when I say people, I mean the government has been saying is that this is a temple where people also come for salvation. Yeah. So there are people who do die by suicide because this is what they've planned and they've come for, right?
Yeah. Now, that is possible, right? Nobody is ruling that out. But the question is, how so many? Why so many, right? See, now...
What are the numbers? What are the numbers?
An activist named Somnath Nayak asked for information under the RTI about how many suicides and deaths and murders there had been in Dharmasthala and Ujire villages. So the police wrote back saying that there were 452 suicides and 8 murders between 2001 and 2012. Okay? Now, Dharmasthala, so the claim of the police and basically the overall narrative offered as an explanation for this high number is that it is a town, as you mentioned, where people come to die. But you also have 50 kilometers away the Kukke Subramanya temple, which is also located on the banks of a river, which also has a bathing ghat where people go to. The same is true of Dharmasthala as well. There is a temple, there is a bathing ghat, and so on. But you don't see this kind of phenomenon over there.
But if you Google, actually, I was doing this yesterday, you do see deaths coming up in Kukke Subramanya.
Not
but
on
what
this
the
scale.
People in Dharmasthala are saying is that the numbers are not that high.
Not on this scale. So like in the early 2000s and so on, people recall reading every day in the Udayavani, every other day, that a body is found here, a body is found there, and so on. But it is not of the same scale at Kukke Subramanya, which is, by the way, at least or more popular than the Dharmasthala temple in terms of visitors.
No, but I think even that can only be proven. Like, for example, it's a theory that why doesn't it happen in Kukke Subramanya if the numbers are really thrown up, right? Like, we know the exact numbers.
Of course.
Then maybe. If it's the same, then the conspiracy dies.
Then, yes.
But the point is, in all these years, those numbers have never been compared.
So, Dhanya, what I sensed when I went to Dharmasthala and spoke to people, this is not new. And what has happened, like Anisha rightly said, repeatedly there have been these incidents. Now, for locals there, it is very hard to keep track of which ones are suicide, which ones are unidentified. So, there's a lot of fact and fiction being mixed. And there is this entire thing of, oh, this is where a lot of bodies turn up. But this is where I want to hold the government responsible. As early as 1993, in the Assembly of Karnataka, this was discussed. The role of police and how they've been handling these cases has come up from the time of Ramakrishna Hegde. We've had 30 years after that. And all of them point to how the police operate. There is a lot of ambiguity. There is a lot of mystery. And when people ask questions, there's a lot of high-handedness. And I think that's why even the locals now feel enough is enough. We need answers. And that's why when a man comes, a mysterious man, they don't even know who he is. And he says, I've actually buried so many bodies. It's difficult for us sitting elsewhere to believe hundreds of bodies. But the locals say it is very possible. So I think now the government needs to show transparency first thing.
No, it's very surprising, right?
Can I just bring in another point here? In 2016, when V.S. Ugrappa went to Mangalore as part of his report and the committee that he headed on sexual violence, he was appointed by the government. So then also activists told him, quoting this very RTI data, that this was happening. And he asked the police for an explanation, and the police, I think the additional SP or somebody said that, no, it is on average around 100 people commit suicide over there every year. And he pointed out, why does this not happen elsewhere? And they said they had no answer for that.
But if you look at the numbers, it is actually between 30 and 50 every year. So what I'm saying is that perhaps these numbers, if the government had paid some attention to it, not
Exactly.
just one government, multiple governments over the years, and said, okay, look, this happens in other towns also, which are religious towns, or perhaps that these numbers are not anything to be scared of, things could have gotten solved, or people would have found some
Exactly.
solace, but they never did.
Yeah. So Ugrappa asked them this question, okay, what have you done to, prevent suicides? Have you done anything? Neither the district administration nor the police had an answer to give to him. If this is a phenomenon that has been repeatedly talked about, okay, if you're seeing this, if the police knew when an activist raised these numbers, that okay, they had whatever figure, the figure may vary, but they were aware that there was a large number of suicides and unexplained deaths occurring there. Why have they not taken any action?
No, I also want to point out one thing. This RTI reply Anisha and I were discussing yesterday is only from Ujire and Dharmasthala town.
Yeah.
We still do not know the number of people who are found dead in places like Beltangadi or even other villages and taluks nearby. So the number can actually go up. I mean, if somebody has to really study this phenomenon, we have to take the numbers from the taluks and municipalities close by
this
also.
is such a small area if you look at it. It's less than 10-kilometer radius, two places put together. So the numbers are high irrespective of what the nature of death is.
And of course, there have also been other deaths which they protested against, right? Like this Dinesh, who was one of the protesters, and he died in a car accident, right?
Yeah. This happened in 2021. And initially what happened was, okay, so he was riding a two-wheeler and a car collided with his vehicle and he died on the spot. His father initially thought that it was an accidental death. I mean, who thinks your kid is going to be murdered, right? But then, so when he went to the police station, he told the police as much. But when he left the police station, he alleged that he was given money by one of the police officers, 40,000 rupees. And that's when he started to question as to why he was being given this money. And, he later went and, changed his statement and asked for a murder investigation. That case took another twist again sometime later after he went and told the court that, it is not a murder, it is not an accident, it's not a murder, it's an accident. So all these things also put questions in the mind of people. There's just so many questions and no forthcoming answers, credible answers from anybody, which is backed up by transparent investigations to show the public that, okay, no, you know what, these people are actually there only to kill themselves out of whatever distress or whatever they may be in. But there is nothing sinister happening here.
Yeah, a point that I wanted to put across is that when there is a large number of such kind of deaths being reported, whether we take a suicide point somewhere, what we do is put extra cautionary mechanisms so that this doesn't happen. I think the local administration and the temple has sort of a moral position that they should have taken. In this age where CCTV cameras is most often, couldn't they at least have to show that their hands are clean, that these are people, or at least to as a precautionary measure to stop people who are going to suicide or kill themselves in the name of moksha or whatever. The administration has a responsibility to put CCTV surveillance, to put extra measures, put police officers on duty around these areas where the bathing ghat or wherever, to as precautionary measures. And I think they have a lot to answer when they don't do that. If they can go to a court and get a gag order, they could have put these measures in place and make sure that this kind of bad reputation would not have landed on them.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, imagine when Saujanya died, also one of the big problems was that the CCTV footage was not there. No, like if you look at the 2 or 3 murders that you talked about, that can happen in every city or every town, right? But the fact is that people of that area feel there is something sinister because explanations are not given. Now, because Leena mentioned the gag order, we have to talk about not just this gag order, but the fact that Bengaluru courts have a penchant of giving these gag orders, and they give something called an ex parte injunction. For those who are not aware of that term, basically if Pooja wants a gag order on me, she goes to court and files a case against me. The normal procedure is that the court would give me a notice and I am allowed to come and explain. But in Karnataka, they always ask for ex parte injunction, which is Pooja will say, don't ask my explanation. The court also will not ask. They will first gag me, then ask me for an explanation.
Look at some of the people who've taken gag orders. Assuming that there are pornographic videos of you, they have gone and secured orders. 3 ministers, 5 ministers.
No. No, the number is not 3 or 5. There are
No, I'm
tens.
saying the ministers
The
only.
tens
Yeah.
of them. So, for those wondering what Pooja is talking about, most Karnataka politicians have CDs on them, right? So, they just go to court and take an injunction saying that my CD is going to come, nobody should telecast it. That is how Prajwal Revanna got away with the rape CD for a long, long time, or the alleged rape CD, because he already took an injunction. So, nobody's going to sit and waste time watching some politician's sexual escapades. Nobody watched Prajwal Revanna's tape properly when it came. Only much later, during the election, people understood that this was not just sex escapade, but these were tapes or CDs of rape itself. In fact, we have done a very detailed story about how the Karnataka, the local courts in Bengaluru, keep giving injunctions. The Hindu, for example, a newspaper which is headquartered in Chennai, had no injunction orders against it in Chennai in the year 2023, but it had 80 cases against it in Bengaluru. The number is almost the same for every year. The BJP, of course, is way ahead of the Congress and the JDS, but it's not like the Congress and the JDS are not
But I
taking.
must point, the Congress leaders, a large chunk of them who have gone to court are the ones who came from BJP, and the Congress guys who went to BJP also took. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of dirty politics that does happen. And the courts are complying with them, with the politicians in giving these gag orders.
See, it is not even politicians. Now, the problem that we pointed out in the story is that this whole habit starts with politicians. I think Rajesh Chandrasekhar was one of the first people to get ex parte injunction on a story against him. Then Tejasvi Surya uses it, and a lot of other politicians decided, hey, ex parte injunction is a good way to stop anything against me to be published, printed, whatever. Then slowly, individuals, corporates, there is a case where somebody went to court saying that the word Kundapura should not be used while talking about this woman called Chaitra Kundapura, who was part of the BJP. She was arrested because she did a whole examination scam. Some random person goes to court and says, using the word Kundapura. Now, her name is Kundapura. What can we do about it?
Okay, so for people who don't know, Kundapura is the name of a town. How can you avoid mentioning the name of a town? In fact, with the gag order, latest gag order over this whole Dharmasthala thing, I've seen news headlines which say the village that cannot be named.
Like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's gone to that ridiculous level because a lot of people here have a practice of taking on the name of the town that they're from. And as a part of their name.
There was one particular case in which a teenager had died by suicide, and the mother had been alleging that the college had harassed him. There was a gag order on the mother from talking to the media. What all will you give gag orders for? And multiple times we've actually tried to approach court, but the legal opinion that we were getting in this case is that we have to have many more media houses, and 1 or 2 newspapers were ready to join us, but we couldn't find a proper case that we could then highlight to the court. In this, of course, we will, in the Dharmasthala case. But the point is, this week, in fact, my email, normally by evening, the lawyers will send us the emails about what are the injunctions that we got and what happened in court. So 7 to 9, my email is full of updates from lawyers.
Yeah.
This week, we've got 3 injunction orders. One is the Dharmasthala one, which came like a shoebox. It was this big. And then one from this BJP leader come actor called Jaggesh. Some story about some fan fights long ago, wants that removed. Then Kulkarni, who is a minister who's accused of rape and murder, he also wants some story removed. And all of them have secured injunction orders. So I feel like we write a story, and some of these injunction orders are for stories written in 2018, 19, and the courts are just granting it. I really hope the Karnataka High Court is paying attention and puts a stop to this, because it has become really ridiculous and it has become very difficult to work in these circumstances.
And that's also one of the main reasons that large media houses cite, why are you not covering a story as, Kannada media was one of the last to pick it up, ironically, the Dharmasthala issue. And one of the reasons they give is, we can't fight more cases in court. Now, that could be an excuse.
But hello,
that could be
all
an excuse.
the Kannada media, which did not cover the story at all, have also got gag order.
No, I
against
agree.
it. So they may have as well as covered it and then gotten a gag order. Now they have a gag order without covering
But
it.
the courts are giving an excuse too,
No,
right?
so this order I would like to point out, like I was going through the list, right? You have every Tom, Dick and Harry under the sun, individuals, that is one thing. Random YouTubers, Instagrammers, everybody. But you also have mainstream media houses, including the ones who did not cover the story. But you also have a lot of these small news organizations in Mangalore and in Dakshina Kannada who've been slapped with an injunction.
Imagine the team
Dozens
going
of
through
them.
this.
Huh?
Somebody actually went
Yes,
through
8,000
8,842
links. Yeah,
links.
like when I saw that list, I was like, oh my god, somebody actually sat and looked through. This is their full-time job, 24/7. So I mean, it's a great social media team actually.
Yeah. No, and the funny part is one of the injunctions we got was to remove a story in which we wrote on Virendra Hegde's reaction. Like
Oh, yeah,
he's
yeah.
being targeted, right? It is our duty to also tell the world what is their reaction. They want that also removed.
That's because somebody has just sat and Googled. They didn't read the entire
Yeah.
copy.
And the question that has been asked to the judge also by KV Dhananjay, who you interviewed, did you read all these links? How are you giving the injunction orders for 8,842 links? If you've not gone through them, how do you know what is defamatory and what is not?
Yeah. So one more thing. So the date of registration of the case is July 18, and that's the same day the order was granted. So that's also a question that a lot of people have been raising. How do you manage? Okay, fine. Let's accept you went through all of that. Did you do it in like less than 3 hours?
Yeah. Pooja's video itself is some 30 minutes. How is that possible? Okay, so I guess we will bring an end to that discussion now, but we will keep following the Dharmasthala story. And I think Anisha and Shivani are putting together a story on why there's so much of mystery about the place. But we'll play it by the year. We'll see what happens with the SIT and what they find.